I just want to say a trigger warning before I start. I am going to be talking a bit about disordered eating and showing photos and videos, so if you do find that type of content triggering, please don't watch this, and please don't watch any type of content that upsets you. But yeah, I'm gonna just share lots of photos and videos, not just from my disordered eating experience, but also through my athletics experience and how I started running and started running at nationals. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought it would be a good day to tell you my entire life story, basically. Okay, I've been meaning to make this video for a while. Wow, I feel like I start a lot of my videos like that. It's true, I've been meaning to make this video for a while because a few of the things I get DMs a lot about are how I started running, I get DMs about my injury, and I get DMs about experiencing an eating disorder. So I thought I would film this video to basically tell you my entire life story. Not really, but basically tell you about all of those three things and just kind of explain like my story with how I started running to going through an eating disorder and getting injured and where I am now. So I'm gonna try my best to not make this like an entire documentary, but probably get comfortable. So first of all, how I started running and yeah, became like an athlete. So I do athletics and my main events are 400 and 400 hurdles. I didn't start my sport as in athletics till like I always think of myself as starting like later to the sport. It wasn't late, I was still young. I was 15 when I started with my coach, when I started competing at nationals. But like that was the year I kind of began, which was year 10. And at that time I felt really fresh because a lot of my competitors in my age group had been competing for years, they'd been training for their whole life, and they'd done little A's like for their whole life, but I hadn't done little athletics or anything like that. So I started in high school basically, but in primary school I was always sporty. I loved sport, like I lived and breathed sport. I was just like obsessed with sport. I always wanted to do like athletics outside of school, but my parents used to be stricter when I was younger. They're like so chill now, but yeah, they were like, no, you can't do too many sports outside of school. So I did netball and just sport inside of school. Yeah, in primary school I was always sporty. Like I would still win at school comps in like cross country and athletics, and I would get to state, but I didn't train or anything like that. I was just a kid living my life, played a lot of cops and robbers, so probably got a lot of training from running heaps. Anyway, so in high school I just always wanted to do athletics, and I was never like amazing at it. Like even though I said like I would make state in primary school, I wasn't in like a crazy area that had like it wasn't hard to get into. You had like to have a tiny bit of talent, but like a tiny bit. Like I wasn't any prodigy or anything like that. So in high school again I was really sporty, got involved in sport, but I wasn't like in early high school I wasn't like some prodigy. Yeah, I loved it so much, and I just really wanted to run. Like I can't explain it. So I finally started like little A's like in like year 8 or something after school, and then I just did little athletics and I loved it, but yeah, it wasn't anything too serious. At the end of year 9 I really wanted to compete. I wanted to enter like little A's comps outside of school, and I literally used to know absolutely nothing about athletics, and so my dad registered me to compete at like little A's zone where I literally knew nothing. This is crazy. And he actually accidentally registered me for New South Wales Juniors. Funny that, like how do you make that mistake? If you guys are athletes watching this, you'll probably be like, wow, you literally knew nothing, and you would know what I'm talking about. So every athletic season begins in around October and it goes over the new year and ends in like March, April, depending when nationals is. That's like the end of the athletic season. And in around February is New South Wales Juniors, which as a junior you have to run at to qualify for nationals. You can qualify at different events, like if you run a qualifier, but you have to compete at that event regardless. So I didn't know any of this and I just knew nothing. So my dad, I wanted to enter in 200 meter hurdles, and I was in the first year where it becomes 400 meter hurdles. Didn't know any of this. Basically my dad accidentally registered me for New South Wales Juniors to do a 400 meter hurdles. Never done one in my life. Yeah, so I turned up and I just did it anyways, and I ended up coming third at state and making nationals, and I was like, that was like the highlight of my life at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then also in that season, I medaled at Little Athletic State for like 400 and like 2 other things. 200 hurdles and something else. This is the very beginning of 2015, so I was in year 10 and I was 15 years old. And yeah, so I had just loved running, but I'd never actually trained or anything for it. Like, don't get me wrong, I tried to like go on runs a lot myself because like I loved it and I wanted to get better. I didn't know anything about like specific speed training, speed endurance training, you know, all of the details that are important. I didn't really know anything, so I would just like be doing push-ups myself and like going for runs. So I competed at nationals and I think I came 7th. Mind you, it's 400 meter hurdles. It's not the most competitive field. I was like really happy with it because I obviously knew nothing about the sport at that time and hadn't trained or anything. And yeah, that was like my first athletic season basically. And then that off season, so around April, school holidays between term 1 and term 2 is when I started with my coach, who is still my coach now. I just fell in love with the sport, so I learned everything I know from her. That was my first off season. The next season was, I think, probably one of my best seasons because I've literally only had like 3 seasons. So the 2015 to 2016 season, oh yeah, Perth Nationals. That was Perth Nationals that year, and still to this day, one of the highlights of my life going to Perth, not just for nationals, but I had such a fun trip. One of the best memories of my life is going to Perth for nationals because me and Dad had just such a fun trip. We went for a week. It was just, I don't know, I was one of the happiest I was in my life at that time. And yeah, it was so much fun, that experience of competing in Perth. And oh my god, Rottnest Island is so beautiful. Wow. So yeah, that was basically my first like proper athletic season after having trained for a little bit, like for a few months. And yeah, so I did 400 hurdles and the 4x4 relay in Perth, and I was somewhat happy with how I went, but I wasn't. Like, I was hungry for more, and I was like, I just believed that I had so much more in me. And in saying that, everyone that I was competing against had been doing athletics for half their life, and I was like, had been doing it for a year. At that time I was 16 years old, and yeah, I was just in love with the sport. After Perth Nationals, that same week I had Little Athletic State at the end of the week, and that was like the end of my season, and that was like, that's still my 400 PB to this day because of like all the injuries and everything that's happened since. And that was the only time I've ever run like in the 57s because basically I haven't had a chance to be healthy since then. Cool. So that year I also got picked for the Oceania team for Australia to compete in Fiji. That doesn't mean I'm like one of the best in the country. Like, I was coming like top 7 for my age at nationals. It's not like the most competitive thing to be picked for that, and I applied and got in. And that trip was one of my best memories. Again, was going to Fiji and running for Australia. That was like one of my dreams, and obviously I knew that it wasn't a huge comp and it was not competitive at all. Like, nationals is more competitive. It was one of the best experiences, and it was just so much fun, and I had 2 really great roommates who I'm still friends with. And it was just, yeah, this just makes me happy thinking about how much I love running. And so I won my 400 over there. And then I also was in the 4x100 relay. And then the next season after that, so 2016 to 2017, is pretty much the last healthy season that I've done. So I was 17 at that time. I did 2 nationals, so Australian All Schools in December and Australian Juniors in early 2017. And that's pretty much the last time I competed healthy. I just did 400 meter hurdles and 400 for both of those comps. And for Australian All Schools, I also was part of the Swedish relay. Again, one of my favorite memories was competing there. One of the best things about this sport is the friends that I've made. They're like family now. Yeah, so end of 2016, Australian All Schools was one of my favorite memories. Also the closest I got to getting an individual national medal. So I have some relay national medals, but I've never had an individual one. But I came 4th in 400 hurdles by like 0.01 or something. It was like agonizingly close. Start of 2017, I was getting quite a few like random injuries, but they weren't like debilitating like the one that happened in the middle of 2017. Even though it was my last healthy season, I ended up getting a few injuries that season where that kind of like limited what I could do. So I remember like the month before nationals, I was doing pool sessions and bike sessions because my knees, I don't really know what was wrong with it. I got MRIs, but yeah, I was just in pain. But I was still like okay. Like I still competed at nationals, and I think I came sixth. How do you even say sixth? So I was still like doing well and improving, but I was just like, it wasn't great. But like now that I look back, I'm like, that was actually pretty good because I suck now. Anyways, so 2017 I was in year 12. So that off season is when shit went down. I didn't even say how I found my coach. So like, as I was saying before, like I started with a coach after I made my first nationals in year 10. Before that nationals, because I was so keen, I like went to one of the little A's camps, just like a weekend camp. It wasn't like a stay overnight camp. It was just like a training, 2-day training thing. And I actually met a hurdles coach there who was lovely, and she said I should start coming to see her. So I would get the train after school to Olympic Park once a week in the lead up to that nationals to do hurdles training with her. So that was the first type of formal training I ever did. But then that off season when I started with my coach, the way I found her was because my sister, my older sister, who's like 25 years older than me, she used to work at Endeavour Sports High School, and my coach coached there. So that's how she found my coach, because she was like, oh, my little sister is looking for an athletics coach. So that's how we found my beautiful, beautiful coach, who I'm so close with now, and I love her to death. Anyway, that was really creepy. So I'm really close with my trainings family now. Like I was gonna say squad, but they are a family. So in year 12, at the time I had a boyfriend. LeMayo, why do I find that so funny? I don't know how to explain this without being so cringy. So basically at the time in year 12 I had a boyfriend who I had met at Australian All Schools. I feel so weird talking about them like this, but yeah, they're my ex now. But anyway, we met at Australian All Schools, ended up being part of like the same friends group through athletics, and I remember I would go to his house after school sometimes, and I remember his mum asking me like, oh, how's training going? And I remember saying, oh, you know, it's good, but like I've been training. So over the years my training had increased slowly. So when I first started with my coach in 2015, I was just doing 3 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week even. And then as I started to like get better, my training increased, and we also had other things thrown in there, like some cross training and like bodyweight circuits and stuff like that. So I was like at that point training a lot more than when I was previously, but I was still kind of like running similar times and coming the same places at nationals each year. Okay, so I said to his mum like, yeah, it's good, like, but I'm just doing so much more than I have been in previous years, and I've been trying so hard for like a while. Actually, I remember when I first started to increase training a lot was after the trip to Fiji. A lot of the other Australian athletes that I met, I was like, whoa, their training loads are so much bigger than mine. Like I do like 3 to 4 days a week at that point. In saying that, I was 16 and a lot of them were older. So a lot of the time when you're younger, you don't need a lot of training to start making adaptations and to start getting better. But anyway, so as soon as I got home, I talked to my coach and I was like, I want to do more. So I was doing a lot more for almost a year since then. And yeah, I just said, oh, you know, it's good, but like I've been doing so much more, and I wanted to see drastic improvement. I needed to be patient. But at the time I was like, oh yeah, like it's good, but yeah. And she was like, oh, the same thing happened to, I don't know if I should say my ex's name, but like the same thing was happening to him. And then he moved coaches to this coach, and like that, he won nationals that year. And his time came down by like a second. She was like, you should come to him. And I was just like, the first time she said that to me, I was like, yeah, but in my head I was like, no way in hell. I am so close to my coach. I love my coach, and my training squad are my best friends. I was like, yeah, no. So on the outside I was like, oh yeah, but on the inside I was like, absolutely not. I wish that I just stuck by that, because I didn't. So I don't know, I don't really remember everything that happened. This was 3 years ago now, so 2017. Eventually one of the times we were talking about it, I ended up being like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, like I need a change. That is when shit started to go downhill. This is gonna be hard to explain because I don't wanna be beefy. I don't wanna talk shit about someone online. I know I'm laughing about this, but this situation is not funny. So this coach, I'm just gonna say, was a psychopath, and yeah. I feel so bad for like making this. Oh guys, look how hot my nails are, by the way. Okay, sorry, distraction. So I moved to my, at the time, boyfriend, but now my ex's coach. And that, yeah. you live and you learn is all I can say. So look, I was 17. I was very easily impressionable, that's the word. This coach that I went to, he was, I'm just gonna, like, he was, oh, I feel so bad for saying this online. Like, imagine if he's watching. Fuck you if you're watching. Anyway, I'm laughing on the outside. Anyways, he was very manipulative and persuasive. Like the reason I haven't done this video is because I feel like I can't say what I want to say online. Like, that's just not, you know, you shouldn't talk about other people like that, but also I want to roast them, and like, it's just weird. I don't know how to explain that, but anyway, yeah, I'm just going to talk about it from my perspective. But I saw how, yeah, so other athletes that were with him, I noticed were also being manipulated. I don't know if they realized, but yeah, it was very manipulative, and I didn't realize in the moment, but now when I look back, I'm like, holy shit. Oh man, like, anyway, so within like 4 weeks of training with him, like, the training load was just like intensified suddenly. I'm not saying a huge intense training load is bad, like, no, it's not bad, but if you don't adapt to it, if you just suddenly start going into intense crazy training, all of a sudden you will break, and I broke. So that's when I got my navicular stress fracture. I just have a few memories, like, of doing like this session that was like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like hard, and I was like on the ground, like the lactic brain was, I remember he was like, that's not fast enough, get up, you're doing it again. Or like I had to do like from the 300 back down again, and that was wild. That was absolutely wild to me at the time. So I got a navicular stress fracture, and I was put in a cast and on crutches, and that was like when I first, it was really heartbreaking to me. The coach I was with was very like, oh, it's a stupid injury, it's just, it's not like serious, like you should just get injections, just get surgery. And at that time I was like, oh okay, yeah sure, but now like I'm just like, what the frick, like I know so much more about it now. After being on crutches for a month, and during that time I went to the gym every single day, and I would text my coach in the morning every day saying, hey coach, what do I do today? And he would send me like exercises to do, like upper body strength stuff that I could do while on crutches. So after 4 weeks I was still in pain, and I just knew that my foot wasn't healed because I was in pain still. Like, I remember in the night just getting shooting pains, and I was like, what the hell? I don't really remember how the sequence of events went, but I ended up getting another scan, and weirdly my fracture had gotten worse. So I had a navicular stress fracture, and then it just ended up completely fracturing. And they sent me to a surgeon, and my coach was like, you have to get surgery because we need you to start training again, like ASAP. And I was like, okay. And like, obviously it was heartbreaking for me. If you're an athlete going through an injury, then you would completely understand. It's really heartbreaking, and my camera is about to die. I started to get quite depressed, and just I was feeling very lost. This is the first time I was just like, I don't know who I am anymore. Running was like a huge part of me. Basically I was like, this is who I am, and I just felt like I was losing my spirit, and I started to get really depressed. They sent me to a surgeon because they were like, yeah, it's not healed, you need to get surgery. And the surgeon was like, I don't want you to have surgery. You're young, you're only 17. Your body should heal naturally. You just need to give it more time. He told me that naviculars sometimes can take 18 months to heal. And I remember I felt like it was the end of the world. The other day I realized, I looked back and I was like, my worst fears from that time pretty much came true, because my worst fears were not, you know, continuing to improve, not, you know, not achieving my dreams of like getting better and being a great athlete, or being even a good athlete, or just improving. And I'm like, the other day I was looking back and I was like, wow, like basically my worst fears at that time happened. He put me in another cast for 6 weeks this time. So, and I'd been on crutches for so long at that point, because there was a few weeks between the two casts where I was still non-weight bearing and I was on crutches. I remember crying to my mom and saying, 18 months, like I'm gonna be, like, I was 17 and a half, and I was like, in 18 months I'm gonna be 19. That means I would have gone all of 18 without running. It was just a really hard time, as you can imagine, but at the same time I was trying so hard to be positive. Every single day I would scroll on Pinterest and read just quotes about, just positive quotes about like overcoming adversity, or just random stuff like that, or like pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start again, you know, kind of cringy stuff. But I was also like, it was helping me a lot. After I got over the initial shock, I just continued to go to the gym and do my pool sessions, you know, just kind of grind. That was my last year of high school, and it was really sad to miss my last like state and my last like all those school comps. So after not weight bearing on my foot, so I was on crutches for about 4 months, I finally got clear scans where my bones were healed. Oh, it was such a good day, and I was like, I got my cast taken off, and let me just tell you, underneath that cast was disgusting. It looked like, I'm really sorry, but it looked like a burns victim / malnourished child, because the muscle had all wasted away. It was just skin and bone, and the skin had been under like cast and stuff for so long, and they were all crusty and yeah, so I actually couldn't walk straight away on my foot without it being so painful, because it was like it hadn't had weight put on it in months. But the coach that I was still with at that time was kind of like very like, we need to get you running ASAP. So the progression was not great, basically. I don't remember this to a T what happened, but I just remember going back to training too early and being pushed too hard too soon. And it wasn't even running because it was too painful. It would be like walking on my toes uphill multiple times. So basically for a few months I just had so many problems because I'd be in so much pain, because it's just such a big injury. You just have to so slowly return to your rehab and return to training and return to walking. And yeah, he was just pushing it too hard. I remember at a training session once bawling my eyes out between reps because I was in excruciating pain, and he told me, go cry in the bathroom, don't let anyone see you crying. Like, he didn't even say stop, like don't. Like, my coach now, like I'm back with my OG coach, and she, if I'm in pain, she's like, stop, like listen to your body. Like, you're the one in your body, you can tell me if you're in pain or not, but if you're in pain, stop running, because that's just going to make things worse. Have the week off and just do bike sessions this week. Like, your foot needs a break, obviously, it's screaming at you. Anyway, so this is now the end of year 12, like finishing high school, and I'm finally healed, but I need so much rehab ahead of me. And yeah, I had a few setbacks because of being pushed too early, and thought that my bones had been fractured again because of the pain, but luckily they hadn't. Kind of around this time, because I'd been unable to train for performance for so long, and because of a lot of little comments and just like the influence of that coach that I was with, I started to get really obsessive about like body image. And that is basically when I first started to experience like disordered eating patterns. That was kind of more around the time that I left that coach though. So around the end of year 12, I spent half the year training, like doing all of this stuff to try and stay fit somehow, like pool sessions and upper body gym stuff on crutches. And I wasn't training for any event or anything. I was just trying my best to get some type of strength or fitness. And because I was unable to run, I started to just focus on getting lean, I guess. And I remember the coach that I was with was the first time a coach had made a lot of comments about other athletes' bodies and how other athletes ate, and he didn't tell me exactly what to eat, but told me what to eat and what to do. And yeah, I basically started to, I didn't know anything about calories at this point. I didn't know what foods were calorie dense and what wasn't, but I knew what was healthy and what was unhealthy. So I don't know, I just started to not eat enough and get really lean. And then I got really obsessed with body image, and then I got really afraid of food. Like, I've gone into a lot more depth in videos before about my eating disorder, but this is kind of how it began and like what kind of triggered it to start. I don't want to say triggered it because I'm not blaming anybody, like it happened, but this is just how it kind of like evolved, I guess. So yeah, I basically was just so obsessed with getting lean. I started to get lean. I started to get visible abs and veiny abs. And for me, one of my biggest insecurities has always been like my abs, because that's just where I store my, like that's just how my body distributes. I've said this in videos before, but everybody's bodies are so different. Like, we all distribute body fat differently. And for me, like, I have lean arms, lean legs, but I just felt like I didn't have defined abs, and that's just where my body fat distributed. Even though I was always like thin and lean, I was never like I don't know, I was always a bit self-conscious about my abdominals. I just got stuck in a bad mindset with that. Then I discovered counting calories, and yeah, it kind of went downhill from there for a little bit. Early 2018, I finally left the coach that I was with. Not only had all that injury and food stuff happened, but a lot of other stuff that I honestly just don't want to talk about on YouTube, purely because it's like, I don't want to talk about another person. Even though what they did was bad, like I don't want to talk shit about someone else. But basically, inappropriate stuff, I'm just gonna say, like teenage girl and old guy type of stuff. And yeah, just not great for mental health, not great for anything. So it was really refreshing to leave that, and I went back to my coach, my old coach. I'm so much closer with her now, and I said to her, like, it was dumb and I was just like a kid and we all make mistakes. But yeah, I said to her I regretted leaving, and I feel bad that I did that. But yeah, she's been one of the biggest supporters I've had in the last few years with the mental struggles that I've had since then. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful that I have such a caring and like beautiful person as a coach who I'm also very close with. But she's a very smart coach. She was a great athlete, and I trust her so much. Early 2018, I left that situation and went back to my coach, and my coach was so on board with helping me slowly come back to training, slowly adapt my foot, and slowly get back to where I was. So that was all going well, but I was just so malnourished that I was just struggling because of the energy imbalance that I was in. So when I went back to her, that was like one of the heights of my like disordered eating. I was not eating anywhere near how much I needed. Like I was in such a state of energy imbalance, and because I just finished school, literally all I was doing was training all day, every day. Oh, mate, all I would do all day is like spend hours at the gym, and then I would spend hours at the pool and training so much. But I did not get anything from any of that training because I wouldn't eat enough to fuel my body, and I was burning so much energy and I wasn't feeding my body, and I was just like so skinny. And I haven't had a period now in almost 3 years because yeah, I've just struggled with that since, and my body was just in such a state of energy imbalance, and I just got so obsessed with like the results of how lean I was. Yeah, it wasn't healthy. It was just honestly not healthy. But this is so hard to explain because I'm trying to explain this briefly, but it's just so deeper than that, because it was a mental thing. It really didn't help that in this day and age that it's praised to be looking like that. Like at the same time, I was posting photos on social media and people were commenting like, you look amazing. But at the same time, I did have the people who knew me were commenting like, you look sick. Like my friends would tell me like, you don't look good. And I knew that I looked like, my face and stuff looked emaciated, but I was just so obsessed with my body being tiny and lean that I couldn't get myself out of that place, and it became like fearful to get out of that place. Like I wouldn't just feel bad, but I would feel anxious, like super anxious and so stressed and panicky if I hadn't spent the entire day training or if I hadn't under-eaten. And it was just so disordered and so sad and messed up, and my body was just breaking down. Part of me like knew it was bad, but the other part of me was just so consumed by that whole like body image and eating disorder that I couldn't get out of it for a while. And then I don't even know how it first happened, because I've had a few times where I've decided I need to change, I need to gain weight, I need to get healthy, and then kind of like not fully relapse, but kind of relapse, like I've dropped weight again. But it was just so hard to stop counting calories and to just get to a healthy weight and to eat enough. And after being so obsessed, and my mind, like it was like rewiring your mind, but I just had enough of feeling like that and being in an energy imbalance and being so consumed by being tiny that I wasn't happy at all. I feel like I missed that year, honestly. I was so obsessed with that place, and I was just like, I don't want to miss more years of my life, and I just want to be fast again. I just want to be healthy and run well again, because when I was in that place, I could not run well at all. My coach actually at one point said, you know what, don't come to training until you get to this weight. For me, the lowest weight I got to was like 45 kilos. Like I'm 170 something centimeters. I was just so unwell and not okay at that weight. I have said so many times before, like, everybody's healthy at a different weight, so like I hate to bring up weight because weight is not an indicator of how healthy you are. I'm more kind of just using it as a comparison to myself. So when I was healthy and I was like running well at nationals, I don't even know how much I weighed, but I was around like 54 kilos ish, somewhere in those few kilos. I remember in 2018 at one point my coach was like, just like, don't come back to training until you weigh 50 kilos. So I did that. That was like the first time I was like, yeah, I'm recovering, I've had enough. And that was going well. I came back to training, and basically I would start training again, start to get a tiny bit lean, and then get obsessed. Because the hard thing is, when you've been that shredded, it changes your perspective of what being lean is. And I guess it's like, well, you have body dysmorphia because when you are a healthy weight, you feel so overweight. But that is something that you can, you know, if your mind's been rewired to think like that, you can also rewire it back to not think like that. So that's something that I've worked on a lot. Why is this so exposed, this lighting? That's something that I talk about a lot, is just learning to love your body at it being a healthy size. Yeah, that's something that I had to work on a lot. But yeah, I just had so many times, like basically the 2018 to 2019 season, I was trying to do 800s because I literally couldn't run fast. I was just too underweight.
So we're away in the first of the ladies' races of the night. There's Imogen Russell from Sutherland in 4. So about 30, 31, 32 through the first 200. And the field well strung out. So it's Imogen Russell here from Sutherland who takes the bell in 1:06. Imogen Russell controlling this race. 1:45, 1:46 through the 600. Moving on to the shoulder now and fading.
And there was not enough of me. I couldn't be fast, I couldn't be powerful, so I just did 800s for a bit. I also was struggling with speed because of the impact, and I would still get pain in my feet sometimes, which I still do now. So I did 800s for a little bit, but I just was in such a state of energy imbalance. I was just constantly lethargic, and 800 training is hard, and I wouldn't eat enough to fuel that training, so I couldn't run well. Like I ran like a 220 or something after like 3 months of doing 800 work, and that's not very good. But at the same time, when I look back, I'm like, you know what, considering what I was doing to my body at that time, that's not too bad. Like, but anyway, yeah, basically at the end of that season, so this is a year ago, 2019, early 2019, I was in not a good place, weighing very little, and I just was really underweight and really in a state of energy imbalance. And I basically said to my coach, like, nah, I've said it before, but I'm saying it again, and I just can't. And I just said, I need to get healthy, I need to get a period back, I can't feel like this anymore. So I stopped coming to the track. When I say stop training, like I would still do stuff at the gym, but just not, you know, high intensity running stuff that's burning a lot of calories. I'd just be doing weight stuff or stuff that is like body strength stuff that doesn't burn too many calories, but it was a way of moving that I still like doing, because partly because I was in an obsessive mindset with exercising, and I would panic if I didn't exercise, which was a disordered mindset. It wasn't like as an athlete, but also partly because that was what I loved doing, and without doing some form of training or exercise that I enjoyed, I felt depressed. Oh, this is so hard to talk about because it's just so complicated, and there were so many ups and downs. Basically last year, for a couple of weeks, maybe 2 months max, I just didn't go to the track, and I just like forced myself to gain weight and push through that negativity and that panic. The things that helped me push through it were reminding myself how good it felt to be fast, and how much I love being good at running, and how much I wanted that again. Reminding myself that life is so much more than your body and how you look, and I just didn't want to be in that place where I was so consumed by food and like my body, and reminding myself how good I felt when I was healthy and I had energy and I wasn't super lethargic and tired all the time. And also your mood. My mood changed when I was eating enough and when I'm not eating enough. When I was eating enough, I was me and I was happy and enjoying my life, and when I was in a state of energy imbalance, I didn't feel like myself. Felt really low all the time. I got to a healthier weight, and then I started training again, and I started to actually feel like I was getting something out of it. I started, also when I say training again, like I mean back at the track, I was still going to the gym. I started to properly follow a gym program with my strength coach, and I started to do my track work, and I felt really good. Like I just felt like how I should feel when I'm training, not like I was breaking down. And then as I started to get lean again, I started to also just not eat enough, because I knew that when I trained and didn't eat enough, I got really shredded. And it was just, I hate to like admit that that's so recent that I've done that, but I'm just gonna be honest. And then when that happened, I was basically just like, hell no, I've not come this far to start again. Basically the last time that happened, I basically was the one to instigate it, because I always just waited until my coach would tell me, you are struggling so much and you're constantly so lethargic and at training, you need to like get healthy. But this time I was like, I don't need to wait until someone tells me. I know how to listen to my body, and I know what my body's asking for, and I know what I need to do to help my body, and I need to be at a healthy weight for me and not be in an energy imbalance constantly. And my coach had obviously been through this with me time and time again by this point, and she was like, Imi, like she was exhausted. She was like, I can't deal with this anymore, like you need to stop doing this. Like I'm so exhausted by the amount of times you've like lost weight and then fallen apart and fallen into that disordered place again. Like she didn't say it like that, but she was exhausted, and I was putting that stress on her of being, you know, an athlete in her care that was starving myself and in a mental place. You know, I'm an open person. I wasn't secretly doing it. I would constantly talk to my coach about how I was struggling, and she was so lovely and so helpful, but at the same time that is a stress on her. It was just like to the point where she was like, it's been like 2 years of this now. I was like, enough's enough. I can't do this anymore. And what was different this time was that I had developed a much better relationship with myself, and I talked so much better to myself, and I knew how I should be talking to myself, and I'd grown as a person, and I was just ready to just leave that place behind. I was like, I'm not spending any more time at war with myself. In the times that I had worked hard to face that fear of gaining weight and eating enough, I'd also kind of learned how much better it felt to be in a healthier place and to not be consumed by food all the time. So that kind of leads us to now. For a few months now, I've just kind of been in a much better place with myself, and you know, with training and with eating, I feel more like my old self, like in school. And often in my recovery like journey, I guess, I would compare myself to how I was back then, and I was not consumed by food at all. I was consumed by how much I loved running. So now I'm so much more healthy physically and mentally, and I've just got such a stronger relationship with myself, and I just know that part of me that is me, and that part of me that I'm like, no, like you're not, that's not you, that we're not doing that again. We've come too far now. So yeah, now I'm just in such a better place mentally and physically, but I haven't 100% recovered. Like I still haven't got a period back, and one of the biggest things I haven't got back is my speed. And this last few days, I've been letting myself think of how heartbroken I am by losing my talent. And I said to my coach, like, I'm so sad that I've lost my talent. I'm not saying I was ever super talented. I was running well. I just really miss that. So right now in my life, I'm basically just trying to get my speed back and run well again and get my period back so I can be completely healthy. But I know I need to be patient and give myself a good chance to get fast again. And when I say give myself a good chance, I mean not fall back into any energy imbalances and just be healthy. I'm just going to try my best to be fast again, and I am someone who believes that if you never give up and you keep trying, you'll eventually get there. So I honestly don't know if I believe that for myself, but I'm just going to keep trying. And I've kind of decided that if I don't get back to where I was and get fast again, which does break my heart to think about, but if I don't, at the end of the day, I do love running and I do want to be competitive in this sport. I just decided that if I don't get good again at 400s in maybe like a year, I'll probably move up in distance. And you know, I've always been interested in running a marathon, so I might move up to the marathon. The fact that I'm like saying this on YouTube is so like intense, because like people are gonna be like, oh my god, you claimed you're gonna be a marathoner. I'm just saying, like, I'm prepared to move up in distance because I do want to do a distance that I can be competitive at, and if I can't get my speed back, then distance it will be. So I'm gonna end this video here because I've honestly been talking for like 2 hours and my throat hurts so much. I hope I can like share my story properly in this video. It will be hard because there's so much to say, but thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate the support. If you did like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. This is so hard to do.